Hey, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us on the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Nate.
And my name's Justin. How you doing?
Hey, good man. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
We're happy to have you.
Oh,
What If has we're finally here. We're in the third season, the final season. It's taken us and all the fans on some incredible journeys through the multiverse. Looking back on the series, how do you feel it's done its job in expanding or redefining how fans view these incredible heroes within the multiverse?
well, it's funny, it's I think what it's shown, at least to me, is that anything's possible.
Mhm.
And that it's okay for Marvel to play
Mhm.
and take big swings and do crazy things. It's like because we're able to do anything, right? We can have a hardcore drama episode that ends in absolute tragedy. We can have something that's totally zany comedy, and then all the action and adventure and emotion in between, right? So it was a truly a playground. And so I mean, final season, yeah, asterisks, who knows? And there's no end to the stuff, right? So as long as there's a fun or compelling or interesting story to tell and a way to tell it, I think, the watcher could always come back, hopefully. I hope.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't think he'll ever leave us.
No,
Yeah.
no,
No.
he's with us always. Um,
Always.
I do love the notion of trying to do each episode with a sort of different vibe to it. Like there's almost like looking at it through the lens of a genre in some
Yes.
instances, and I think that that's so great. But another real impactful part of What If is the animation style, and like
Mm.
we've seen like I Am Groot and X-Men '97, they've gone very different
Yeah.
directions with their animation style. What went into the decisions in finding the look and feel for What If?
Yeah, it's funny too because I think for a hot second we briefly toyed with the idea that every episode would be a completely different art style.
Mm.
Ooh,
That would have just been insanely expensive, right? Because we need different vendors that were capable of doing the different things, and we're just like, oh my gosh! And for the first one out of the gate, we're like, we don't know if we're ready for that. Even though we would love to see, and I think with all the other animated shows that Marvel will be doing, that's where we get our variation of styles, which is awesome. But for us and for me, I wanted to do something that broke away from what animation normally looked like. I wanted to elevate it just a little bit more.
mhm.
So making it feel a bit more illustrative, not pure comic book, even though that could have been just as fun and just as awesome. And who knows, we might do one if at some point that's like, it totally looks like a comic because we can, right? We can do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But borrowing from some classic American illustrators, mainly J.C. Linedecker,
Mhm.
and then trying to bring that aesthetic in a little bit, and then also cinematically shoot everything, like paying attention to pretend lenses, right? It's animation. There are no lenses really, but it's like, well,
Right.
what does it look like if we shot it all anamorphic? And let's really play with the light and the values and the cinema because that's what I was raised on, trained on, and that's what I always try to bring to the table. And I mean, we did a shit ton of that in, Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
Uh, and the idea to bring some more of that to this, it's like I try to bring it to anything I do. Uh,
Yes. It gives it that
so
levity, right? It gives
yeah,
it the levity of
yeah,
that
yeah. And
cinematic scale.
for sure. And it was great. And they were like, yes, let's do that. So we did it. But, we didn't have any time to develop the look. It was like, start production and make the look. We're like, yeah. So every year we're trying to like upgrade it just a little bit to hopefully get to what we all had always wanted. And who knows, maybe if we end up doing more what ifs in the future, maybe one of these days we'll finally get there. I still think it looks great, but there's plenty of things that are still like, yo, but we still could do this. So who knows? We try.
Well, we've loved the sort of hybrid 2D, 3D style that feels very familiar to the MCU, but it's holistically fresh
It
and
helps, yeah, and that's one reason why I think Kevin and company, they liked what we were talking about because it didn't feel like a complete disconnect from the MCU because in the beginning, right, we have Bryan Andrews helping design our characters, and right, he designed the costumes, all that stuff for the live action movies, and then he helped us with this stuff, and because it's so illustrative, and because J.C. Leyendecker glorifies the human form, in his paintings they almost look like Steve Rogers superheroes anyway. You know what I mean? Very Americana in that capacity. So it lends itself perfectly for what we were trying to do. So, it all worked out. It's great.
awesome.
Well, speaking of elevating each season, you can tell we might be fans of the X-Men.
Yes.
And we got the tease
Yes.
of Storm joining What If. What was it for you and the team finally getting to bring a member of the X-Men into this series?
That was awesome. I mean, I wish we could have brought more in, but we had to hold off because we didn't have the rights to the movies at that time when we were doing some of these, and then X-Men 97 was going to be coming out. But it's funny in hindsight now that it's all come out. It's like, dude, why were you guys being so careful? We should have had a lot more. It's like we could have had what ifs with Wolverine and Gambit and like you name it, you know what I mean? Rogue, like it's like anybody. It's like it's the sky's the limit. So if there are any things in the future at some point, I think if this is a pause, I hope it's just a pause, not a super final farewell.
Okay. Okay.
But if it is a pause, which don't quote me, that's just me hoping. Um,
Us
it would be
too.
nice to be able to bring some of these other characters in and be more free
Mhm.
with who we do stuff in. And I always want to do ones with that had never been in an animated show or in the movies. Like I kept trying to get Beta Ray Bill in there, and they're just like, no, because one day we might want to do him in live action. I'm just like, when? And this is fun stuff on the side. It's
Yeah.
okay. Let's just play.
Right. Right. That totally makes sense. That
But I love it. But having Storm in there is fantastic, and I look forward to the reactions of people when she's in her episode, so people can really enjoy it. I hope
no,
so.
well, it kind of goes hand in hand with the question about the multiverse that you're kind of touching on with bringing in characters and so on and so forth. But with a focus that the MCU is focusing on the multiverse, did you ever feel the need to align the series more closely with the live action events, or was it always a goal just to kind of keep this as a standalone that sort of introduced and played with this idea of what a multiverse could look like?
I think it's more about like let's play. Like in the beginning, they wanted to make sure that the audiences knew that it's attached to the MCU, that the cinematic universe has all these potential, you know, possibilities out there, right? So that's why the first season it hews very closely to certain films and then varies a little bit differently with some little subtle things. And season two, we expanded out from that. And then season three, we expanded out even further. I always thought we could just jump, just no, we don't need to be like the movies. Let's just freaking go for it. It took a little while for them to, I think, warm up to that. But now that they're seeing it, they're like, oh, yeah, 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 which is great. But also it's a bummer because, like, oh, but now we're done. It's just like, but dudes, now you know what we could really do. We should like go for it. That's why I hope, in the future they'll be like, okay, let's do something else that's crazy. Because I
Gotcha.
think people do love the crazy because it really is they just you don't get that from the movies, right? It's
Oh,
something completely different, you know what I mean? So yeah, it'd be rad.
yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, we can ask what if.
Yes. What if?
We're feeling a little nostalgic about this series already, just again in the coming to the pause maybe.
Yes,
Let's
maybe a pause.
for these past three seasons, is there a moment that has stood out to you that has maybe for you defined what if really is?
Mm. That's a tough question because I think there's a lot of episodes that have little bits that really address that, right? But I think like the culmination of season one when Infinity Ultron hears the Watcher,
Yeah.
and turns and looks, and he's just like, I freaking see you, dude. And like the Walker's like, what the heck? I think that like allowed audiences to know that, hey guys, all bets are off. You have no idea what could possibly be coming down the pike, right? So I think that set the stage for us to do more crazy stuff, in the future, which I thought was great. And even the Doctor Strange episode ending in a tragedy, you know what I mean? At that moment, everyone going like, I can't believe they ended it like that. It's like, yeah, man, some universes don't end well, and that's cool. And that was always something that we wanted to do and show. And the show allowed us to do that. And I think that's great,
Yeah.
and it makes people realize that we're checking into one of those stories. There's no there's no safety net. You don't know what may or may not happen at any given moment. And I think that's a little bit freeing, which is I like the fact that when some people watch the episodes, some people on purposely don't want to watch the opening credits because they don't want to see the names of people who are in it
Yeah.
because they don't want anything to give anything
Yep.
away,
Right.
but that's the spirit of what it is. It's like, hey, let's just cozy on up to the fireplace and let me tell you a tale, right? It's like that's what we're all trying to do for everyone, and the fact that people are allowing themselves to be told a story I think is great. I think things have gotten to the point where everyone's trying to find out the story before they hear the story, and I think that diminishes an audience's ability to truly just be a kid again and just hear a story and just have an honest reaction to it, you know.
I love that.
So yeah, so I think those moments show that that's what if can do, and that's what if is, you know.
It's funny because we just spoke with Brad Winderbaum, and that was his answer was Infinity,
Yeah.
looking at the
Yeah.
at Watto. So you guys are right
Uh,
there.
yeah.
Hilarious.
Well, look, I'm, with this pause, I'm sure that there's more stories to tell, and hopefully we'll have another opportunity to talk with you. But we just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the Geekcentric podcast. We're thrilled that at the end of the season, at the end of the series thus far, or pause, we have had this time to chat with you. We hope we get the chance to do it again. And
Awesome.
cheers.
So do
Happy
I.
holidays.
Yeah.
Thanks.